Northwest Digital News. I'm Kevin Hunter with Chris Bornstead and Kyle Coreyson. It is a beautiful Monday, June the 18th. And Kyle will kick us off with a report of this blazing hot weather we got coming.
It is so hot. I love it. So today is going to be a high of 81 with the low of 55. It's going to be partly cloudy, and it looks like it's going to be partly cloudy for the rest of the week. It's going to be in the high 80s and then going back to like the low 70s, the mid 70s for the hitting Thursday.
Kind of like that, but it looks like 90 degrees coming up. High of 89, but 90 degrees. It'll bounce over 90. Just watch. So we got some nice toasty days, but a little cloud cover. Yesterday evening I was out working in the driveway, and those even thin clouds came through it, and it really helped with the heat. So very nice. Anyway, let's move on to some of our show subjects. We have Dennis Rodman, the Diplomat. We're going to have a little short discussion about a shooting that took place in Walmart.
I would have never thought that we would call
Dennis Rodman, the Diplomat.
A diplomat.
Yes, exactly. And then kind of an interesting story on the Monticello Pizzeria and Chef Hacker they had there. So let's start off by sharing this story. For a little backstory, for people who've been following what was going on in the meeting between President Trump and Kim Jong-un and North Korea, the talks, the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Well, as it turns out, this conversation actually got some assistance from a very unlikely character, and that's Dennis Rodman. And so here's a conversation between Jake Tapper and Dennis Rodman on CNN. Hear what he has to say about how far back this actually goes.
Whoops.
The video's looping for some reason.
Well, it was loaded beforehand.
Let it pause it there for a second and see if that clears up. So let's visit about this a little bit. So for people who don't know some of the backstory, Dennis Rodman actually got an invite by Kim Jong-un to North Korea back during the Obama administration. And he thought he was going to a charity kind of event. It was playing basketball there in North Korea and doing some things to help raise funds. He thought that's what was actually happening. So anyway, he gets this invite to go out to North Korea and ends up making contact with Kim Jong-un, has a conversation with him, and Dennis becomes a believer in the peace process or a potential peace process. And Kim Jong-un gives him 3 items that he says he wants Dennis to bring back to the President of the United States, who at that time was Obama. And he wanted Obama to consider these things and saying that, hey, he was open to a process moving forward. And if the video is up now, Kyle, go ahead and roll this for our audience. He'll share, Dennis Rodman will share what took place in that conversation between him and President Obama.
Well, you know what? I've talked to those guys the last 5 years.
Which guys?
And I talked to Kim Jong-un and an administration over there 5 years ago. And he asked me 5 years ago, we sat down for lunch. And he sat down and asked me, hey, Dennis, I would like to ask you 3 things. If you go back to tell the President of the United States these 3 things. And I would be willing to talk to him. And this is a true story, and I got my people here that was there that heard the conversation. He said things like, if they can move the ships back from South Korea, I would do what I have to do to listen. If you can move certain things or do certain things, I will listen. My ears will be open. And I tried to do that to Obama, and Obama didn't even give me the time of day. I asked him, I said, I have something to say from North Korea. He just brushed me off. But that didn't deter me. I still kept going back. I kept going back. I kept going back. I showed my loyalty and my trustworthy to this country. And I said to everybody, I said, the door will open.
I
And it was
remember you
amazing.
saying
It's
it.
amazing.
I remember you saying it. Let me ask you
It's
something.
amazing.
Does Kim understand English, Dennis?
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. When I said those things, when I said those damn things, when I went back home, I got so many death threats. I got so many death threats when I was sitting there protecting everything. And I believed in North Korea. And when I went home, I couldn't even go home. I couldn't even go home. I had to hide out for 30 days. I couldn't even go home. But I kept my head up high, brother. I knew things were going to change. I knew it. I was the only one. I never had no one to hear me. I didn't know one had to see me. But I took those bullets. I took all that. I took everything. Everyone came at me, and I'm still standing. And today is a great day for everybody. Singapore, Tokyo, China, everything. It's a great day.
It is a great
I'm
day.
here to
This
see
is a
it.
historic day.
I'm so happy.
You were saying to me years ago that you thought this would happen.
Okay, so there's Dennis Rodman sharing with Jake Tapper, and you can take the CNN thing off.
You know what I find
back window.
really, and I don't know, like again, my mind works differently than other people's, but this reporter asked if Kim Jong-un spoke English, understood English.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, he speaks it.
Yeah.
This reporter doesn't know that he can speak English. He has several times in some of the videos that we've seen. I've seen him speaking English, so apparently, yeah.
Yeah.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. He speaks English. Well, you know, he's whatever judgments people want to place on his motivations is a different thing. Kim Jong-un is actually a very smart guy.
Yeah, you know, it's really weird because, you know, on our show here, we've talked about how things are over there in North Korea. So when we have a regime the way it is, and I don't know everything that goes on over there. I'm told by a bunch of Democrats that have never been there that, you know, there's all kinds of bad stuff going on over there. And then we've talked about that special class of people you have over here. So how do we bring somebody like Kim Jong-un into the rest of the world with the things that he's doing to his own people? How do we get around that? How do we?
I don't think you can get around it. I think you have to deal with and address what those issues are, and that has to be fixed.
I think it's baby steps, though.
Yeah,
Baby steps.
But nobody else can see that this is a new process and that there will be some things that will need to be changed, but it doesn't all happen at once.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, how do we convince these other people that are downing this deal that was made by our leader with their leader? How do we stop these people from being so negative and saying, look, this is just the first step?
You're asking me, how do you fix insanity, or how do you fix, you know, other problems that people have? We can't stop people from wrapping their minds around, you know, the wrong things or whatever they might be. You can't stop somebody from putting this down. That always will be. And Kim Jong-un doesn't have a particularly good record in this whole thing. But think about something that Dennis Rodman shared in this clip we heard. He started this already several years ago. He said 5 years ago is when these conversations date back to. And I don't know if you remember when Dennis Rodman was being vilified in the news, and he talks about, made reference to these death threats that he was receiving when he came back from North Korea. But he had tried to make contact with then President Obama and tell him that, hey, there's some things here worth looking at, and I think some conversation should be had over there. And he says Obama blew him off, didn't say anything. So
Kyle Flake made a couple of good comments here. He says the first one is sad times when Dennis Rodman does more for the American people than the Democrats have. And then, and that's fine. You know, I mean, that's people's opinions. And honestly, I believe that the American people are waking up to a lot of the shenanigans and tricks that the Democrats have been using to keep us separated for a long time. I think people are finally on to them, that these issues that they hold, that they say they hold so dear to them.
Progressives more than the Democrats.
Well, you know what, Kevin, I'm just going to call them all out because just like any time you get a cancer in your body, you have to remove it, otherwise it's going to make the whole thing. All I'm saying is that same cancer exists in the Republican Party. And absolutely does.
Even in this community.
Yeah, and we talk about it all the time in Draining the Swamp here. Mm-hmm. But again, at some point, it becomes the responsibility of the parties to start expelling the cancer from them. If the Democrats want themselves to be looked at as Democrats and not be lumped in with the nutballs, then they need to start stepping up and saying, you know what, you guys don't represent what we want. And it's the same thing on the Republican Party. You guys don't represent what we want. Go start your own party.
Are you aware of a nutball even in the local community who spends all kinds of time calling everybody and their brother trying to further that individual's agenda? Does that happen?
I can name a few.
There
I can name a few.
couple of guys that, you know.
And do they care about the truth of things, or when you're saying how would you go around fixing this, or you'd have to then ask me, how can you give this person some respect?
Right.
How can you give this person some responsibility? How can you give them some real concern about facts and information? And the answer would be, you don't. It's kind of like Ron White would say, you can't fix stupid. You can't. There's this very stupid element in the Democratic Party called the progressive movement, and you hear all the nonsense that's being said around, from gender identity to you name it. I mean, pretty much any issue. And I was even having a conversation with somebody here recently who was even talking to me about coal and how they got a sign out in the front yard that says we can do better. And it's somebody who lives in my neighborhood, so I've had some conversation with them.
Hands off my water.
Yeah. So we've had some conversation about it, and what's really funny is they started mentioning to me, like you were talking earlier this morning about this rally of sorts they had at the admin building over in Kelso.
I did, yeah.
Okay, so somebody in my neighborhood showed up at my place wearing this red shirt that had this anti-coal message and asking if I was going to the rally. I was like, rally? What rally? No, I'm not interested in any rally. So,
yeah.
But anyway, so they started throwing this thing out to me like, do you see what's happening here with coal, and what's happening here with coal, and what's happening here with coal? And I just asked a question. I said, hey, the same scientists who are producing that information have data on the web, the history of the Earth. And have you looked at the charts that talk about the 800,000 years of the Earth's warming and cooling? And, if these guys are putting together credible information today, and you believe that it is, they're the same people putting together this. Is that credible information? Yes or no? And the response back, and I just said, so we've had these warming and cooling cycles that have been happening for hundreds of thousands of years. What explains those? If pollution explains this one, what explains those ones? And you know what the feedback was? Well, I don't want to talk about what's happened before. I just want to talk about today. And you know what? That's the point. They did not want, because the brain was focused on that specific agenda. They didn't want to look at the entirety of the information. And you see that happening in both parties. Republicans and Democrats alike, and there are swamp monsters in both parties. And they make these claims around unity, like we want to unify the party, or we want to unify the people. And everything they do is the worst example of what somebody would want to do if you're actually trying to unify anything.
Well, honestly, if you think you're going to unify everybody when it comes to politics, you're not.
Yes.
You probably shouldn't be involved in politics, because sometimes you have to be hard on the other people for them to see your way, and vice versa.
But to go to this issue, because I love this analogy, this individual who's been spouting this, wanting to unify the Republican Party in our local community, the tactics used and deployed, and the conversations had with people, and the misinformation, deliberate misinformation that's been shared about candidates, about landfill issues, about you name it, all of that. It reminds me of that saying that says, the beatings will continue until the morale improves. And you look at those two things and go, wait a minute, you can't use beatings to improve morale. Well, you also can't use these kinds of techniques these guys have been using to create unity either, at all.
Well, I would like to say this, because there is some fight, in the Republican Party that we are seeing online for sure, in our local party. I would like to say thank you to whoever owns the property across from J.H. Kelly, because they did something that we don't usually see from the Republican side, and that is they put candidates signs in their yard. But both of these candidates are running for the same position in the same party. And I want to thank them for doing that instead of going out there and destroying one of their own candidates versus another one. They instead put a sign up to support them both. And that's thank you. Whoever did that, I don't know who you are, but thank you.
Instead of the special interest within a party who wants to further a specific candidate.
Instead of instead of bashing both opponents, and I kind of made fun for the Democrats for double endorsements. This isn't the same. This is just putting up a sign. There's another person in town that if you ask him to put your sign up on his fence, he will allow it. Most people anyway. And it doesn't matter whether you're Republican or Democrat. If he likes you, you can put a sign on his fence. And that's the kind of attitude that we need. We need to encourage some of these folks that are running. If they're good candidates, again, I am not going to elect a bad candidate. I don't care what letter they have behind their name. They're a bad candidate. They're a bad candidate, and I'm not going to support them or put them forward. So, there's a difference between working for your party and electing somebody who shouldn't be elected.
And there's a lot of people that don't get that, but we won't get into that.
That's a whole nother fight.
So anyway, back to this this component of Dennis Rodman, an unlikely character. Who would have thought that we would see characters like Dennis Rodman and Kanye West wearing "Make America Great Again" hats? Yeah. Who would have thought we would see that happen?
Brandon, the sun was beating down, and the particular angle and diagonal of the ray of light.
You have to repeat the question though, for other viewers.
So yes.
The question is, can we tell you how the Swanson's fire started?
No.
This was in Longview on the quarter.
I was going to try to give him some BS long excuse, scientific excuse. But it was just for him.
Yeah.
But no, we can't tell you what started the fire. It was really hot out and the chips caught fire. No, it's combustion.
I can tell you, Brandon, that I've actually received some of the topsoil, which has a little bit of crushed bark or pulverized bark added into it, and it was like 3 yards of fill that came when I was working on yard work, and so I had this nice big pile out on one of the driveways, and I started scooping down into that to throw into the wheelbarrow. And not only was it hot, but as it got deeper into the pile, there was actually smoke coming out of it.
Basic way to explain this is it decomposes, and that causes heat. It causes energy, and it's real easy for those wood chips to catch fire. And I imagine that's probably how that happened.
Spontaneous combustion.
Yeah.
I got a quote. Jermu said the spontaneous bark dust fire were a result of heat generated by the decay process combined with the recent heat and dry weather.
Haha.
There you go.
That's right. Now, one of the things that I did read yesterday, and I learned myself from people online, which is what the internet is good for, learning, is that they couldn't put this stuff out with fire. They actually had to get in there with machines and move the chips around to stop the fire. And I thought that was...
Yeah, firefighters cannot use water on the bark dust pile directly. Instead, they have to pull the piles apart to reveal hot spots and precisely target them for extinction.
Right, yeah, because you had people online making jokes about how there's this out-of-control fire next to between two rivers. Got the Calumet right here, and the Cowlitz, or the Columbia right there, and the Cowlitz, and it's actually 3 rivers. But yeah, it's just incredible. I got a phone call from somebody who was actually out on the Columbia, relaxing. I imagine you guys could probably all guess who that was. Chris, all I see is smoke coming from Longview. What's going on? Let me find out. Of course, I was in my pool, so I didn't know what was going on.
See, the reason why they can't use water on the pile is because the water on the pile creates a long-term problem. Because wet bark decomposes more quickly, so that just makes the problem.
Makes more heat.
And yeah, especially in the summer, because if the weather keeps getting better and better, depending on how you think about it, it will just be more fires later on in the summer.
By the way, Brandon, if you take your yard clippings and trimmings and all your mulch stuff and you put it in a pile in your backyard, it too can smoke and smolder. It too can catch fire. So that's why you see a lot of people have switched to the barrels. The big barrels that you put your mulch into.
If you have a mulch mower that puts it, shoots the mulch into a bag, and you don't clear that bag out of the mower.
Yeah.
I have, in a single afternoon, having stopped mowing and then later came back to finish, a couple hours later, and then pushing the mower around it. Bag now feels like it's full. You go to dump it out, and the stuff inside is just like smoking hot. It's like, wow. So yeah, it happens pretty quick. Let's move on to our other story here, Kyle. The shooting that took place at the Walmart store in Tumwater. And this is a great story because, you know, there's a lot of bad stories out there that happen with relative to shooting and that sort of thing. And these kinds of stories don't get shared a lot because, well, for people who are really wanting to further a anti-gun message, these kind of messages aren't that helpful to that agenda. So what happened here in Tumwater, a person, there's actually, did you guys go through and read the article on this? Did you see the article on this? So this guy was actually loose on foot somewhere else. The police were actually already aware that this individual existed. So they were driving in the area looking for him. And then he showed up at the Walmart. One of the things that he attempted to do, apparently he shot up a little bit of some display cases inside the store. Then he went out, tried to hijack a car. The driver refused to surrender the vehicle, so then he shot the driver of the vehicle, which I understand that individual is at the hospital now.
Life flight.
Yeah, in critical condition. And then a gentleman who just happened to be in the parking lot and observes this happening, pulls out his own weapon and kills the gunman.
This happened in Lewis County, right?
Yeah.
So, me being a part of the Lewis County sites, I was able to see several comments from their citizens on this story, and they went along the lines of, yo, dumb people, everybody in Lewis County owns guns. This is not a place to try that at. So that was
So here's
that was one of the top comments, and it kept coming up. Everybody in Lewis County owns guns. Why would you try to even do something like that here?
Okay, now, so the great part of this story is that the guy who pulls his weapon and kills the gunman, he is actually just one of 3 people who are standing by, who observe the gunman and are armed and ready to take him out. He just happens to be the guy who pulls his gun first and takes him out. But there's 2 other people who were there with guns who immediately, when they heard the shooting, responded to it.
And this is the point of concealed carry, you guys, is that nobody knows who's carrying, and these guys can come to your aid and say, and they can make a difference. I mean, this person that got shot might not make it. And, you know, it just amazes me when citizens step up and do this stuff, because the police can't be everywhere at once, and I hope these guys don't get sued.
And you look at like some of these previous responses there, some of these, a woman who was there, she said it's like an earthquake. You got to just get up and haul ass and run, she says. But one customer stood his ground, grabbed his own weapon, and killed the gunman. Standing your ground is something you can do when you happen to have a weapon on your hip.
We went to the active training. That is one of your choices. You only have 4.
Yeah.
So, you know,
it's one of the choices. And when a person, the person out in the parking lot sees a guy with a gun who's shooting other innocent people, takes him out. Yeah, he's being heralded as a hero, and
rightfully so.
Indeed he is, yes. Job well done.
Now, please quit doing this stuff at the Walmart. I shop there. Come on, you guys.
That's why you pay a little bit extra to go to Target.
No. Oh, man. We talked.
Yeah.
It's so funny. We had a relative who goes, I don't shop at Target, yesterday when we were talking about Walmart versus Target. So that was funny for me. Anyway, so where are we at now? Are we still talking about this, or do we have another subject that we are doing?
We have another subject to put on the show today. It's kind of a comical thing that took place in local news in the Longview area. The Monticello Hotel unveiled a opening of the pizzeria. Now, I'm not sure. Is the pizzeria actually open now?
Yeah.
Yes. The pizzeria is open, and I'm not sure you would
chef?
call this comical.
With or without a chef?
I don't know about that. I think they're still open though, because people are like, yeah, I just got pizza, and I was like yesterday, and I was like, wow.
We could always order one up, guys, and give it a try.
I had pizza yesterday for the first time in like 6 months or 8 months or.
I also had pizza yesterday.
It was from Pietro's. I knew it as Pietro's. What that was, the Pietro's in that location was opened by the parents many, many years ago. I was there as a youngster, like 12 years old, with my mother who liked to go to Pietro's Pizza.
They really did have some of the best pizza back in the day.
Yeah.
Pietro's. They had what they call, oh yeah, they had some good ones. I think they had one called a Diamondback. It was really yummy.
I did enjoy the crust. It was a nice, thin, crispy crust and very good tasting bread.
So tell us about this Monticello story that you have up here, Kyle.
Okay, yeah, tell us about the story. What happened here, Kyle?
Well, you see this guy. He's pretty cool. Not really. His name, I believe, is Chris Hacker. He's the chef.
Hacker, yes.
And TDN posted an article about how he's the chef at the Monticello Hotel for the pizzeria. And then a couple days later, people recognized him, and then he got arrested for failing to register as a sex offender.
He was also had a fugitive warrant.
Yep, he had a couple warrants, yeah.
So,
very interesting.
For future reference, folks, if you are wanted by the law, it may not be a good idea that you do a photo op on the front page of your local daily news.
I have the police blotter right here.
Yeah, so what did the police blotter say?
Failure to register. Longview Police Thursday arrested Christopher Lee Hacker of Longview on suspicion of failing to register as a sex offender and being a fugitive from justice.
So if you're a business like the Monticello that is trying to build yourself in the community, does this hurt your business? Does this
it's not one of those things you'd call a good thing.
Well,
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of cons with hiring him, so the pizza got to be really
that's
good.
An appropriate pun. There's a lot of cons involved here. As in this
Well,
guy,
I found it interesting. Again, I you guys are so bad. I do a lot of time reading what citizens have to say on things here, and there was somebody that got on the post that seemed like they knew the operations of the Monticello very well, and said that this is kind of on par to how they hire their staff there. Is that a lot of the people that work there are cons? And there were a lot of this person just went on and on and on and on. I suggest if you want to learn more about the Monticello, you can get onto the websites and look through the comments and find the complaints that they had made about this place. But they sounded like that they were actually might have been an ex-employee that was kind of like doing a whistleblowing type of thing. So if you get a chance to get on those sites, on the social media sites here locally, and we've got, I don't know, 3 or 4 of them, you'll find these comments.
And I do believe it's still open, so if you want to check it out, you can go to Monticello Hotel on Facebook. They have their menu posted, even though they misspelled pizzeria, but that's just...
They didn't know how to spell pizzeria.
They did spell it wrong, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least it's not a
It's a
copy,
pizzeria.
or it's on the internet so people can see it. But yeah, so it's actually reasonably priced.
What are the names of some of the pizzas that are on here?
I don't know. It's too far away.
I see the Johnny Cash, the
can't
Marilyn
see.
Monroe.
Actually, I've read that the Marilyn Monroe is actually really good.
Is
People
that
in the comments.
Aubrey Hartburn? Oh, Hepburn.
There's the Clint Eastwood.
Oh, believe it or not, they have one called Monticello.
The Monticello.
Monticello.
I don't know. There's the Buffalo Bill. So
Does it put the lotion on the basket?
Is there a hose involved?
I don't know.
Sorry, I can't help it. Anytime I hear Buffalo Bill, it just automatically goes to put the lotion in the basket.
So you said the Marilyn Monroe was good. Who ate Marilyn Monroe? Who ate that one?
JFK.
Sorry. Who tried the Marilyn Monroe pizza?
I don't know. I've just been reading the
You
comments.
said somebody said it was good.
Yeah, I've just been reading the comments. These photos don't have the comment about it, but they do have comments. So if you'd like to read more about it or experience yourself, go check it out.
Yeah. So anyway, apparently there is a pizzeria open at the Monticello, and these are the.
I wonder if they
menu
work a lot
selections.
with the Daily News. I wonder if they have the same editor.
It could be. So $12 for a fire baked pizza. Now, if this is anything like fire baked pizza that I'm familiar with back in the Midwest, the best pizzeria I've ever been to was called Pompeii Pizzeria in Elk River, which is just northwest of the Twin Cities back in Minnesota. And
Honestly,
that place is awesome.
Honestly, the best thing that the Monticello could do right now is to send 3 of your best pizzas to 1323 14th Avenue in Longview on Wednesday around 11 a.m.
Yeah, have them here at 11 a.m.
Have them here at 11 a.m. and
we will try them before the show at 11:30 and then give you a review.
Yeah. I'm pretty fair about pizza. I mean, I've never had a pizza baked in an oven like this. So
Kyle's volunteering to eat the Marilyn Monroe.
Oh man, I love
actually,
pizza.
we need to get Tom Brick here for the Marilyn Monroe pizza.
He actually has a Marilyn Monroe pizza in his, or a picture in his.
And he has a lot of Marilyn Monroe stuff.
Yeah,
he's a fan.
Kyle,
I get Tom Brick to have the brick pizza. I mean, it was perfect.
I just love oven baked pizza. Okay, Papa Pete's in Castle Rock. Oh yeah. But
that's
the one
what we had yesterday.
But on the one on Ocean Beach, not so much. They use conveyor belts, like Domino's conveyor belts. No.
What are conveyor belts?
Conveyor belts?
They're
it's like syringe.
Are you talking about conveyor belts?
It's kind of along the lines of syringe and restaurant, as you like to call it.
But are they conveyor belts or conveyor belts? Are these like a Star Wars version of conveyor belts?
Yes, it is a slow news day, Michael. It's Monday. I mean, we could fight about immigration, but really, I'm tired of that fight.
There's an interesting conversation with immigration going on with these kids sitting in their detention centers. But something had to be done about the issue, and there's a huge crackdown on the borders now that wasn't happening before, and they'll have to figure it out. Well, there's a couple local things like event stuff coming up, and when I say local too, one of the things we're going to share Wednesday and Friday are actually some pictures of we'll probably do this on Friday, some pictures of the pirate ship, which is sponsored by NorthWest Digital News and the Our Pirates Group, ARRR Pirates Group, Association of Rapscallion River Rats, I believe that stands for. Anyway, so we're doing a ship with these guys, and it's going to go to Westport this weekend. Well, you're going to get to see some photos of it. This thing, it doesn't look like this particular ship that I'm about to mention, but if you're familiar with the Queen Anne's Revenge, it's a really, really cool looking older ship.
I've seen the boat from what you guys started with, and to now, so I'm pretty impressed. So yeah, I think here's what's really going to be really cool is all the smiles on the faces of the kids when they see this thing, because they're just absolutely gonna love it.
Oh, it's gonna be off the hook.
The kids are gonna want their pictures taken in it. They're gonna be all over it. You just watch. It's gonna be cool.
And what there will be, this is version 1.0. There will be 2.0 for next year and 3.0 for the following year, and it will just keep getting better and better and better.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are working hard on this to like late at night, and I mean, you guys only have a few more days to get it get it water ready.
Yeah, it is water ready now.
Can it float yet?
Oh yeah.
You think? Okay.
Yeah,
all
it's water.
Because I don't think it could have floated when you guys picked it up.
No, definitely not. Well, I should say it would have floated for about however long it takes for the boat to fill up with water and go down.
I have a question from Michael. I have a question. How do we get the silent majority to speak up and voice their disapproval with the current commissioners? Telling them to vote doesn't seem to work very well. I would love your opinions.
Well, give us the specific issue of disapproval you have with current commissioners.
Like, well, I kind of have a feeling that this is probably along the landfill lines here, right, Michael?
Yeah, feel free to put some comments up there and as to what the specific issues are, and we'll be happy to add some accountability to all of that for you.
And then it won't be a slow news day.
Yes.
I'm also kind of trying to figure out what disapproval that they have. Mm-hmm. Because I haven't heard a lot of negative about the commissioners. I just know that people aren't happy with their thoughts on the landfill. And that's okay if people want to make another.
There are some people not happy.
Well, you know, Kevin, if we want to talk about the landfill for just a few minutes, I have watched us make the wrong decisions on landfills for years now, many years. We make what the citizens consider the wrong decision, And I am looking at this opportunity that we have right now, and it is probably one of the best ones that I've seen for our folks. Now, I'm not saying right.
What we've been handicapped with in the past is you have absolutely horrid, crappy deal makers. That's one.
Right.
And then on the other side of that is the process of selection.
Yep.
Absolutely stunk it up, because how else did you get somebody like Robert Radakovich to run a landfill, which could the implications could be absolutely disastrous. So you get this mom and pop lemonade stand guy to run your landfill for you. Holy cow, who was thinking that?
We actually have some information that we're going to release at the appropriate time.
Yeah.
I don't know when that will be, but I definitely, and I'm going to go ahead and say this, I think that the city of Kelso needs to recuse Mike Karnofsky from this process altogether.
Yeah,
I
totally agree.
I believe that Mike Karnofsky needs to be taken off anything that has to do with this landfill dump, and he needs to be removed from this situation altogether, along with, I think, Steve Taylor now too. I believe that the mayor and another councilman in Kelso should be doing this, not Mike Karnofsky and Steve Taylor. I understand he's the city manager, but I think both of these guys need to be removed from this process immediately.
We're going to share some information with you guys here shortly, and once you have the facts in hand, I don't have any problem making the statement, and we'll release the specifics and whatnot later. But one of the things that we know for certain now is that the so-called unsolicited offer that came in on the landfill here in following this last election, that it wasn't an unsolicited deal at all. That there were deals being made behind closed doors all the way up to that point.
This is correct. And
a new commissioner, Arne Mortensen, interrupted that process because he was elected instead of Karnofsky. Karnofsky didn't get his seat back. And what you would have seen, had Karnofsky got his seat back, you would have seen a deal with another player who was the noisy person who showed up at a week ago Thursday now.
You mean the
but
company...
you would have showed a deal get rammed down the throats of the people here in Cowlitz County.
I'm going to make a prediction, and I hope that I am wrong, but I predict that there will be enough pressure to stop this process. Sorry, Steve, but I believe that there will be enough pressure to stop this process until we have another election, at which point you will see a councilman from Kelso run to be a commissioner again. And at that point, if he is elected, I believe that you will see a deal with Waste Connections out of Vancouver.
Well, you're sharing one potential scenario, but
this is. I said I hope I'm wrong. This is what I can.
Well, I'll make a prediction that you are wrong.
Okay, I hope so. I honestly, I hope I am wrong. I want to be wrong.
That you will be wrong. Yes.
I want to be wrong. Prove me wrong.
Yes, I'm predicting that you will be wrong, and there's things that I don't want to share here on this show yet as to why, but I believe you'll be wrong. And the reason being is that the preponderance of the facts of this whole situation are too overwhelming. And I'm seeing evidence of it across the board in a number of people who were opponents and are all of a sudden going, aha. So, well,
I hope so. And because, again, the citizens... You guys, to be honest, we are the last ones to get the information about what goes on in our county. And that's not done by accident.
You mean the citizens?
The citizens are the last ones to know what's going on. And there's a lot of misinformation about this deal out there. And I think that once we are able to produce this letter that you are talking about, that it will be clear for the citizens. But I don't want them to make the wrong mistake. I don't want to see them make an emotional mistake because they feel that the whole process is flawed now. So Steve, don't take my comment the wrong way. You know, I like the deal that your company is offering for us, and I want the citizens to be able to see that deal for what it is without the lies from the people that are working against it.
You know, I think Republic Services did a good job hiring Steve because, like,
yes.
we said landfill maybe like 2 times, and then he joined the stream.
His radar went off.
Hey, yeah.
No, I am not picking on you guys or anyway. I'm just fearful that again our citizens will make an emotional decision and not a factual decision off of the information.
And by the way, we'll have a lot more conversation on this specific subject. either Wednesday or Friday because Commissioner Dennis Weber will be joining us here on Northwest Digital News to talk about that.
Yes, he will.
Also, the fire yesterday. Here's a picture.
Yeah, short little pic of the fire, which we talked about.
There
earlier,
was some
but
fighting
there was,
online about who posted the best picture of the fire. Clearly, this is the best picture.
This is, yeah. It's all child's play.
But this
so
is a pretty good
hilarious.
view because you get to see the beautifulness of our area, and look at that little thing of fire. I think it could have been a cigarette butt.
Mm-hmm.
And I was amazed to hear that the fire actually jumped the highway. That was pretty. That was pretty amazing there too. But that's a pretty neat photo there. That's a good photo. Kudos to who took that.
That's big. Kyle
hey,
Torgerson.
good shot.
I
Kyle.
climbed all the way up to Brinian, all the way up there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, nice work. Okay, so let's hit a couple of the local events, and we are going to close down this lemonade stand. No. Anyway, so a couple local things that are going on. There's this coming weekend is the Rusty Scuppers. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Rusty Scuppers. So we'll be up there for this weekend. We will have a Friday morning show as normal, but then I am hitting the road and heading to Westport. My wife has set up arrangements for us there to stay for the weekend. So
I'm hoping that somebody posts a picture of you dressed up like a pirate because I'd like to see that.
You'd like to see that?
Absolutely. Eye patch, you name it. Love to see it all.
Did you get 2 eye patches and be Blindbeard?
Blindbeard.
Yeah, Blindbeard. Yeah, okay.
There's
that's good.
probably some other stuff going on, but I can't. We
There is the July 7th rally that's coming up, and then we also want to mention here on Tuesday, which is tomorrow, is the open house with Republic Services. That's going to be at
is that
the
tomorrow?
Expo Center. Yeah, is the 19th.
I'm losing track of time here.
Yeah,
It's summertime,
so it's in the morning, 10 to 2, and in the evening, 4 to 7. So show up to the county Expo Center, and you can get all your questions answered with regard to the landfill issue. So that's going to do it here for our broadcast on Northwest Digital News. Thanks for joining us. I'm Kevin Hunter, Chris Bornstad, Kyle Torgerson. Till next time, take care.